Hello everyone. So one of the most common questions I get regarding Swiftness Reflux Sorceress is which Relic set combination to use. So there are two popular combinations out there, the standard 6 set Nightmare and the 2 Dominion 4 Nightmare combination. So I thought I'd make a video to compare and contrast the two to help you decide which one you should pick. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Nightmare, and then go on to the Dominion plus Nightmare combo, and talk about both of them a little bit. So for both builds, I will be essentially using mostly the same setup, just with a changed set effect, of course. So 1620 Swiftness, 530 crits. This puts me at about 18% crit rate before Adrenaline, and about 34% cooldown reduction. The engravings, I'm using Grudge, Raid Captain, Reflux, Hitmaster, and Adrenaline. Again, the reason why we use Raid Captain in this build is because you have the move speed to make it efficient and better than Cursed Doll. For the gems, I did a little bit of moving around since my last video. I put a damage gem on Frost Call, a cooldown gem on Punishing Strike. Through a bunch of testing and such, I have found that this does slightly better in terms of damage, so that's what I'm going with here. And for the card set, I'm using Light of Salvation 18. Let's now go over the skills. It is worth mentioning here that I am using Mind Enhancement instead of Wide Angle Attack on Punishing Strike. This build actually does have mana issues if you don't solve it a little bit, so this is my way of slightly solving it. It does make Punishing Strike slightly harder to hit, but it ensures that you essentially will never run out of mana, but still being able to maintain that boundless MP state. And for Frost Call, I decided to use the Instant Cast Unstable Rule variant because it does do more damage all at once, right? 40.3 versus 35% from Rule Enhancement, and you don't really need the mana burn effect from that other tripod because, well, your Swiftness. And so for the test, because Dominion does have downtime built into it, I wanted to do a slightly longer test to kind of see how it pans out. So I'll be doing a 4-minute test for each one. I will be stacking Adrenaline beforehand, casting my Awakening, and getting into it. So if you want to just skip ahead to the results, you don't want to see me hit a dummy for 4 minutes, feel free to skip ahead. I will have timestamps in the video. But for the rest of you, I'm going to mute my microphone and just hit the boss and see how this goes. Okay, so with that, I got a crit rate of about 32.71%. So in our case, if we take about 18% and add 15, 18 or 20, 25, yeah, it's around the ballpark. It's in the margin of error. I suck at mental math. And the damage per second is about 4.63 million. So now let's go ahead and test out the 2 Dominion for Nightmare set effect. So I'll do a quick gear conversion here and convert 2 of my pieces to the Dominion set. Now with this set effect, if you don't know what it does, it essentially gives you an inner awakening buff for 2 minutes when you cast your awakening skill, and it's 18% CDR on all skills except for your awakening and movement, and 10% damage. If we compare that to the 6-sec bonus of Nightmare, right, if we kind of take a look at this, you can see that, strictly speaking, it's better, right? We lose 3% attack move speed, but we essentially gain 3% cooldown reduction and 10% damage. The problem, however, that people see with the Dominion set effect is the uptime, right? This does reduce the cooldown of your awakening skill by 20%, but there is still a downtime associated when you just use the skill, right, the awakening skill, without anything. So if I just cast my awakening skill without doing anything, you'll see the buff appear here, the inner awakening buff. And if you actually wait it out and look at how much downtime you have, it's roughly about 36 seconds. And because of that, people say, oh, that downtime is too long, I lose out on so much damage. So what people will do at the start of the fight for those that use this set effect is essentially do an accessory swap. They will swap to accessories that have awakening attached to them, so that when they first cast their skill, they get the benefit of awakening by lowering the cooldown of their awakening skill, and they get basically close to full uptime. So if we see how this works, I'm going to go ahead and go into my character settings, and for my engravings, I'm going to put 2 in awakening. And this will give me about 25% CDR on my awakening skill. And if you do this swap at the beginning, in the battle zone before you start the raid, and then swap back, you'll get the benefit of awakening but still have your rings for actual damage. So if I just again cast my awakening skill, you can see it immediately says 1 minute instead of 2 minutes, indicating that the overall cooldown is lower than 2 minutes, and you'll be able to maintain your inner awakening buff full time for about 4 minutes essentially. But then the question becomes what happens after that, right? Once you swap off your accessories like this and you no longer have the awakening skill, the goal is to cast your awakening skill in the boundless MP state of Nightmare. The reason being is because the boundless states of Nightmare gives you 20% cooldown reduction, which is close to the awakening cooldown, but not quite. So in practice, while you are fighting the boss, right, mid-fight, and you are doing your damage, it's very easy to be in the boundless MP states as a Swiftness player. And while in the boundless state, if you cast your awakening, you can see it says 2 minutes here, but you'll quickly see it shift over to 1 minute, and the actual downtime is about 5 seconds. So if you are able to maintain the inner awakening buff by casting your awakening on cooldown and do the ring swap, you basically will have close to 100% uptime on your inner awakening buff. And given that it's just a 3% cooldown increase or decrease, I guess in this case, and a 10% damage increase, it should be strictly better, and in my testing, it does more damage. So what I'd like to do then is just go ahead and test that out and see how the damage actually fares compared to the 6th Nightmare, as you can see on the screen here. So once again, if you don't want to watch 4 minutes of me hitting the boss, go ahead and skip ahead to the next timestamp. For those of you who are going to watch, I am going to first start in Boundless MP, cast my Awakening skill, because that would be kind of, simulating what it would be like mid-fight. So that's what I'm gonna do here. So let's give it a go. Okay, so I did have like a couple of seconds of downtime because I was so focused on casting my skills that I didn't notice that my awakening skill come up, so you can imagine this number to be a little bit higher. But about 31% crit rate and about 4.95 mil, compared to the 4.6 mil that we had. So it is noticeably stronger. In extended testing, I found it anywhere between 6 to 8% roughly. You would think it would just be 10%, but I'm sure there's something that I'm missing here. The loss of attack speed and move speed might be something with it. It might make a raid captain slightly less effective. So there's probably a little bit of trade-off damage somewhere in there. But to summarize, I can talk about the two builds and kind of their pros and cons. The Nightmare, the pro is it's set it and forget it. You use your Awakening once, and then you just attack the boss. There's no thinking about it. You just go. The downside is that, well, it does less damage, as you can see here. For this build, the 2 Dominion for Nightmare build, the pro is that it does a lot of damage, right? It's very, very strong in that sense, right? The downside is that it does require a little bit of setup and a little bit of thoughts. You can do it without the accessory swap and the Awakening engraving. You will be slightly weaker than what I've shown you here because you will have those initial 30 seconds of downtime on your first cast of the Awakening. But if you do your due diligence and cast your things, while it is a little bit of a pain to maintain, it's honestly not too bad. The other thing to consider about this build is that as the fight goes longer and longer and longer, you only have so many casts of Awakening that you can use, right? You're limited to a certain number in fights, and if you exceed that amount, which is pretty rare to be honest, you're going to slowly lose out on damage. The last thing that I'll talk about is how does this translate over to the standard crit instant cast. It's a very similar conclusion, but there your downtimes between your Inner Awakening buff are slightly longer because you don't have as much cooldown, so it is what it is. Still does more damage. There are a couple of people who have made great videos. One person that comes to mind is Acidiso. That guy makes a lot of videos and uses that build and does very well with it. So check out their channel if you want to learn more about how this works with the crit build. In any case, to summarize, 6 Nightmare, easier to use, does less damage. 2 Dominion, 4 Nightmare, slightly more annoying to use, but does more damage. So depending on the type of player you are, just choose the one that you want. So with that, hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you in the next one.